If nice was all it took to be loved, respected, and protected, you'd be worshipped by now. But let's be honest. The more nice you are, the more they ignore you, use you, and walk away like you never mattered. So here's the truth. Stop being nice. Being nice is not the same as being valuable. You weren't created to be a doormat in the name of love. This is the moment you wake up to your worth, break the cycle of people pleasing, and command the respect that comes from purpose, not passivity. You're not here to be nice, you're here to be powerful. Being nice is not a spiritual gift. It's not listed in the fruit of the Spirit. What is listed? Self-control, strength, faith, love, joy, peace. You were not called to shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You were called to stand in your identity with confidence. Niceness often masquerades as a virtue, but it's really fear in disguise. The truth is, many women were raised to believe that niceness is godliness. That being agreeable, quiet, accommodating, and undemanding is somehow divine. But that's not the character of God's daughters. That's the conditioning of a culture that fears powerful women. If niceness was the key to a fulfilled life, you'd already be walking in joy, love, and abundance. But the reality is, you've been nice for years, and all it's brought you is exhaustion, manipulation, and heartbreak. Niceness is a mask many wear to avoid conflict, rejection, or abandonment. But you can't walk in truth while living behind a mask. God did not call you to be passive. He called you to be powerful. Look at the women God used in Scripture. Esther wasn't nice, she was bold. Deborah wasn't nice, she was decisive. Ruth wasn't nice, she was loyal and strategic. Mary wasn't nice, she was surrendered to purpose. Being agreeable isn't the same as being anointed. Niceness seeks approval, but purpose seeks alignment. When you're more concerned with being liked than being obedient, you will compromise everything sacred to gain something shallow. Some women are afraid to speak up, afraid to walk away, afraid to set boundaries. Not because it's wrong, but because they've been taught that being difficult means being unlovable. But let me tell you this, difficult doesn't mean dishonorable, and assertive doesn't mean arrogant. You have the right to walk in the authority God gave you without apology. Power is not loudness, it's not aggression, it's certainty, it's clarity, it's knowing who you are and whose you are. A woman who knows her identity doesn't need to perform for acceptance. She doesn't bend her values to keep a man. She doesn't beg for love that is freely given by God. And she doesn't tolerate emotional starvation just to avoid being alone. Niceness might make you popular, but power makes you purposeful. And the world doesn't need more agreeable women, it needs more awake ones. Women who understand that grace isn't weakness, that mercy doesn't mean martyrdom, that love has standards, that kindness has a spine, and that boundaries are holy. So no, being nice is not a fruit of the Spirit. Being grounded is, being wise is, being discerning is. And the truth is, until you stop chasing peace at the expense of your own voice, you will never experience the kind of power that transforms your life. This isn't the season to blend in. This is the season to break out, to stop hiding behind the illusion of niceness and start walking in the truth of your calling. Your life is too precious to waste on pretending. Power is your portion. Embrace it. Let's clear this lie once and for all. Being nice doesn't make him choose you. It makes you convenient. It makes you available, but it does not make you irreplaceable. Catering to his every mood, absorbing his silence, tolerating his inconsistencies, and excusing his disrespect doesn't draw him closer. It teaches him how far you are willing to bend just to not be alone. You were not created to be someone's emotional sponge or their backup plan when nothing else worked out. That is not your calling. And when you sacrifice your values for attention, your peace for proximity, and your voice for his comfort, you don't win love, you lose yourself. There's a hard truth many women have learned too late. You cannot outgive your way into a man's heart. You cannot keep giving more, loving harder, praying longer, waiting more patiently, and expect that one day he will open his eyes and recognize your value. Because a man doesn't open his eyes through your self-abandonment. He opens his eyes through your self-respect. A man doesn't commit to a woman who is always available. He commits to a woman who is always anchored. Anchored in her standards. Anchored in her values. Anchored in her identity. He commits to the woman who isn't afraid to walk away, not the one who's terrified to be alone. When you are too nice, you train him to see you as optional. You teach him that no matter what he does, no matter how he speaks to you, no matter how he disappears and returns, you will still be there, still smiling, still waiting, still hoping. And instead of creating connection, your niceness becomes a silent permission slip for his inconsistency. But don't confuse being chosen with being used. Don't confuse attention with affection. Don't confuse emotional crumbs with commitment. The woman who is chosen is not always the nicest, but she is always the clearest. She knows what she wants, what she will tolerate, and what she absolutely will not. She doesn't fear rejection because she knows that rejection is often just redirection towards something greater. She's not performing for his love, she's walking in her value, and if he can't see it, that's his loss, not her deficit. Love built on desperation isn't love, it's a trap. And when you sell yourself short for companionship, you invite heartbreak into your life disguised as hope. Let this be the day you stop negotiating your worth. Let this be the moment you realize that the right man doesn't need you to be nicer, softer, or more self-sacrificing. He needs you to be you. Whole, clear, and unshakably rooted in purpose. If being nice is costing you your voice, your joy, and your self-worth, then it's not kindness, it's bondage. A man doesn't commit to who's nice. He commits to who commands her space, protects her peace, and refuses to lower her standard. Be that woman. Not the one waiting to be picked, but the one walking in purpose, knowing that love built on truth will always choose her. You think he'll respect you because of all you gave up for him, because you stayed when he was immature, because you forgave things you never should have tolerated, because you overlooked the red flags, silenced your own voice, and tried to earn love by bleeding for it. But listen, sacrificing yourself at the altar of his potential does not make him love you. It makes him comfortable. And comfort doesn't produce commitment, it produces complacency. What you must understand is this: men are wired to pursue what challenges them, not what begs, not what bends, but what calls them higher. The moment you stop making sacrifices in the name of desperation and start setting standards in the name of destiny, everything changes. Men don't rise for women who shrink, they rise for women who require growth. If there is no standard, there is no reason for transformation. You thought your sacrifice would be the proof that you were loyal. But loyalty to a man who won't grow only proves your disloyalty to yourself. When you allow a man to be less than he's capable of being just to keep him in your life, you become complicit in his stagnation. And let me tell you something. God will never bless a union that was built on the foundation of your silence. Respect is not given to the one who lowers the bar. It's given to the one who becomes the bar. A real man doesn't fear standards. He's refined by them. He may resist at first. He may push back. But in the soul of a man is a deep desire to conquer, to overcome, to earn. And when you hold your standard, you awaken something in him that no sacrifice ever could. The right man won't see your standards as rejection. He'll see them as a mirror, revealing who he's called to become. And if he's not willing to grow, if he walks away because you had expectations, thank God for the separation. Because a man who can't handle a standard can't handle a purpose-driven woman. Stop giving discounts on your value. Stop negotiating your worth. Stop thinking that if you just love harder, wait longer, serve deeper, he'll finally see you. You're not a project to be fixed, and he's not a reward to be earned. You are the standard. And when you finally believe that, you'll stop chasing potential and start attracting purpose. You weren't made to convince him, you were made to challenge him. To challenge him by how you live, how you walk, how you demand to be treated. And in doing so, you give him the opportunity to rise. But whether he does or doesn't, that's not your burden to carry. Your job is not to save him. It's to save yourself from the pattern of sacrificing your standards to feel temporarily accepted. Love doesn't require you to become less. It requires you to become whole. And wholeness demands boundaries. It demands vision. It demands that you believe you are worth the climb. Because the right man, when he sees the height of your standard, won't be intimidated. He'll be inspired. When you're too nice, his approval becomes your validation. But the minute he withdraws, you crumble. That's not love. That's bondage. God didn't create you to live in the shadows of a man's inconsistency. You were made in his image, and that image comes with authority. Stop chasing affirmation. Start walking in purpose. There is a silent war being waged in the heart of many women. A war between identity and insecurity. A war where every unanswered text feels like rejection. Where his silence feels like judgment. Where his attention becomes your oxygen and his absence feels like suffocation. But hear me, your worth was never supposed to hang on the mood swings of a man who doesn't even know who he is. You are not an emotional hostage. You are not a slave to someone else's opinion of you. God didn't design you to be defined by another person's attention span. He created you in his likeness, which means your identity is fixed, eternal, powerful, and whole. When you need a man's validation to feel secure, you've already handed him your crown. And the tragedy is that you don't even realize it until he takes it and walks away. Suddenly you're questioning your value. You're replaying every word you said. You're wondering if you were too much or not enough. But the real issue isn't that he left. The real issue is that you forgot who you were before he arrived. You were whole before him. You were valuable without him. You were chosen long before he ever noticed you. It's time to take your power back. And I don't mean the loud, aggressive, angry kind of power that pretends it doesn't hurt. I mean the quiet, grounded, unshakable confidence that says, even if you walk away, I remain. The type of power that doesn't beg to be seen because it knows it's already known. The kind of strength that doesn't compromise its standards just to avoid being alone. Because true identity doesn't perform, it possesses. And when you possess your identity, you stop living for applause and start living for assignment. The enemy of your soul wants you to believe that you are only as worthy as the last man who paid you attention. But God says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are his masterpiece. That means you don't need to be edited, diluted, or rearranged to be accepted. If someone can't see the treasure you are, that's not your flaw. That's their blindness. And you don't heal their blindness by shrinking. You heal your soul by standing. So stand up, stand in truth, stand in dignity. Stop letting his opinion shape your value. Stop letting his confusion distort your calling. Your identity was never in his hands. It's always been in God's. And when you remember who authored your worth, you'll stop writing chapters that beg for his approval. Walk away from the need to be liked and walk into the life you were born to lead. Because real love doesn't start with being nice, it starts with being whole. Every time you say yes when your heart is screaming no, you chip away at the integrity of your soul. You silence your own voice just to keep someone else comfortable. And the painful truth is this: people don't learn how to honor you by accident. They learn by observation. When you constantly allow yourself to be walked over, overlooked, or used, you are giving silent permission for the disrespect to continue. Your actions become the lesson plan by which others learn how to handle you. So when you keep tolerating what disturbs your peace, when you keep excusing behavior that wounds your worth, you are not walking in love. You are walking in fear, disguised as loyalty. Being kind without boundaries is not compassion, it is self-neglect. It is not Christ-like to be abused. It is not noble to be exhausted. God never called you to carry what breaks you down in the name of love. There is a difference between patience and permissiveness. One builds strength, the other breeds suffering. And if you keep thinking love is endurance without wisdom, you'll keep bleeding internally while smiling externally, waiting for someone to finally see your heart. But hear me. Your heart deserves to be protected too. And it's your job to protect it. You were not created to be a victim of emotional chaos. You were not called to hand your peace to the loudest person in the room. Boundaries are not barriers to love. They are bridges to healthy connection. When you say this is what I will allow and this is what I won't tolerate, you are not being mean, you are being clear. And clarity is love, because it invites accountability, because it fosters trust, because it refuses to build intimacy on manipulation or fear. The world has lied to you long enough. It told you that to keep a man, you must tolerate more than you should. That if you just hold on longer, give more, bend more, break more, then one day he'll wake up and see how good you were to him. No, queen. That is a fantasy rooted in brokenness. The truth is, when you finally stop being nice and start being wise, the right man won't require your sacrifice of self to earn his love. He will honor the boundaries you enforce because he recognizes your value. And even if that man never shows up, let this be the moment you show up for yourself. Let this be the day you become the defender of your own destiny, because peace is your portion, not pain. Wisdom is your inheritance, not weariness. And from this moment on, you owe no one an apology for choosing your well-being over their convenience. Draw the line. Guard your peace. Honor your soul. That's not selfishness. It's sacred responsibility. Stop being nice to men who haven't earned your access. Stop shrinking so he can shine. This is your time to evolve, not to impress a man, but to honor your Creator. The moment you stop being nice is the moment you start being real. And when you become real, you become unshakable. Walk in power, not passivity. Don't wait to be chosen. Walk like you were already sent.